already know I'm getting there on the perfect line. That's f***ing right! That's f***ing it! F***ing pumped watching this one again. I waited to cinema too because I said, oh my god, it might be 112.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Tripolar Bear, and if you're gonna yoink this build, you better be subbing, brother. This is the Syndicate Operative Spectre build. We will be using the Raise Spectre gem as our main focus of this build. This gem is one of the coolest in the game because it allows us to choose almost any non-boss monster in the game and use that monster for our own bidding. This build will focus on using one particular Spectre called the Syndicate Operative Spectre, otherwise known as the SO Spectre. We'll also use zombies to help guard us from monsters and a minion called Animate Guardian or AG. The AG minion lets us equip gear to this minion for some amazing buffs from gear players normally wouldn't use. I think this is one of the best Maven encounter builds since you can literally turn your brain off, run around, and the Spectres will kill Maven or the feared encounter. I have personally used this build to clear all of the Atlas boss encounters and invitations. I've gotten all of my Atlas passives thanks to this handy bossing build. This build can do it all: delirium maps, bossing, and any other content in the game. This is a jack of all trades sort of build, but it won't have some of the clear that some juicier builds like my self-poison, self-curse build would, so I mainly use it for deleting bosses. These Syndicate Operative Spectres are still the king of Spectre builds, and they're even better this league than they were before because of the addition of harvest crafting and a mid-league bug fix that makes them prioritize their knife throwing attack instead of their stinky melee attack. This means you no longer have to reposition your Spectres and can instead just put Convocate on left mouse button, running around without a worry in the world. We will scale our Spectre damage primarily through converting our Spectre's physical Secret Police dagger attack to cold with the use of the Triad Grip gloves. We will put 4 green sockets on here to get 100% physical to cold conversion for our minions. Then we will buff that physical to cold conversion with our Hatred aura, which gives physical as extra cold on top of more cold damage. And we'll even give our Spectres some extra critical strike chance and multiplier to their Secret Police dagger attack. We will also obtain 5 total Spectres and use Necromantic Aegis to give our shields bonuses to our Spectres instead of us. This allows us to give our Spectres Victorio's Charity, which gives them +3 frenzy and power charges, massively boosting their damage. And later on in the expensive version, we will give them a super juice shield that will be crafted and supply even more nutty damage to our Spectres. We will also apply the Elemental Equilibrium debuff, otherwise known as EE. Enemies we hit with elemental damage will get +25 resistance to those elements, but also they will get -50 resistance to elements the enemy was not hit by. For example, we will be using Stormbrand, a lightning spell, to inflict lightning damage onto an enemy, giving the enemy +25 lightning res, but the important part is that we will be giving -50 cold resistance since we will be not hitting with cold damage. So it is very, very important that you hover over your Storm brand on your toolbar and make sure that it has no cold damage at all. Make sure you also don't get a wand that adds cold damage to spells. But if your wand does cold damage to attacks, or it just has an increased cold damage, that is totally fine. You just cannot have cold damage to spells on your wand or any piece of gear for that matter. On top of EE given minus 50 cold res, we will give another minus 25 cold resistance from a Frost Bomb cold exposure. This is an amazing combo for this league in particular, since Frost Bomb gives 75 less life regeneration, which is a very, very annoying part of every Maven encounter this league, is the insane life regeneration Maven provides to bosses. The Frost Bomb completely cuts that out. It is so amazing. But the most busted thing about these Spectres is how the knives can all hit the enemy, which is a mechanic called shotgunning, which was removed from every other player interaction in the game many, many years ago. This is why you can only hit an enemy with one of your ethereal knives or arrows from a bow attack. But with the SO Spectre, each and every knife they throw can all hit the enemy and do damage. So you can have upwards of 18 knives hitting the same enemy, with each knife doing 1 million damage from 5 Spectres. Now, normally, you won't get all the knives to hit, but some larger bosses, like Maven, are very easy to hit with all of them, therefore very easy to delete. Our Spectre's knife attack will have a built-in pierce, and we will link Greater Volley to our Spectre to create many, many knives. And since those knives can shotgun, we won't have to gem swap for a single target, since Greater Volley is amazing for clear and single target. Our main defense on this build will be the free block we get from Bone Offering, since we are a Necromancer and our offerings will affect ourselves. And we will cap this block with a few points on the tree, Arumis, and Glancing Blows. This also gives our minions a lot of defense as well, since they will also get the block and life on block from Bone Offering. We will also use a minion called Animate Guardian. This minion lets us drop gear and summon the Animate Guardian onto the gear to equip that gear onto the AG. We will equip Kingmaker to our AG to get free Fortify, Culling Strike for our minions and ourselves, and 50 crit multi. That is wild. We can also equip to our AG a Garb of the Ephemeral so that we take no extra damage from critical strikes and we stop all major slows onto our character. We will also get 10% damage reduction from hits since we'll use the Jinxed Juju, which makes our Spectres take 10% of the damage we would otherwise have taken. For normal lab, we'll pick up Commander of Darkness to give us a much easier time capping our resistance and stopping our minions from dying to elemental damage so much while we are leveling, as well as giving them some damage and attack speed. In Cruel Lab, we'll pick up Mistress of Sacrifice so that our offering skills also affect us and give us 40% increased skill effect duration, helping with our skeletons and SRS starter. In Merc Lab, we'll pick up Mindless Aggression to give our minions increased damage, movement speed, attack speed, and cast speed. And lastly, in Uber Lab, we'll pick up Unnatural Strength to give our minions +2 levels, which helps us hit the level 25 Spectre threshold, which we gain an additional Spectre on. Keep that in mind. You really, really want to hit level 25 on your Spectre gem, and if you follow the path of building, you will hit that level 25 Spectre gem threshold. So let's talk quickly about how you can get your Spectres and how to make a Spectre bank. You can find the SO Spectres in any Safe House Jun mission. Although their corpses don't stay long on the ground, so you will have to be fast and prepared to raise one very quickly. You can also sometimes find them in intervention encounters in a random map. But the easiest way to get these Spectres is to message me in-game to ask my guild chat to see if anybody could invite you to their hideout, or to ask in Global 6666, the Necromancer Global channel, if anyone could invite you to their hideout so that you can raise them. Please just make sure you have your own Desecrate and your own Raise Spectre gem. Now, let's talk about the very first thing you should do after you get your SO Spectre, or any rare Spectre for that matter. Let's talk quickly about how you can make a Spectre bank in case your Spectres die, or if something happens, if you take the gem out. Let's talk about how you can make one of these characters. So go to the character select screen, choose the league that you're in this case it's Ritual, start as a witch, click PvP only, and name it something with bank in the name, right? Just bank, whatever. Alright, go ahead, have that character created, and now what you need to do is take this wand out, so you have a blue and a green socket here. And what we're going to do is we're going to buy the Spectre gem and a Desecrate gem on another character. And you want to have these at level 1 so that your character can use it right away. So your bank can use it. So I like to go to the epilogue because these are all level 1 gems. We'll grab a Raise Spectre and we'll grab a Desecrate so that we can create corpses and so that we can raise our Spectre gem. And then we'll go ahead, put them in a stash tab, head on back over to our bank character, and let us go ahead and grab that Desecrate and the Raise Spectre gem. So now we have a Desecrate and a Raise Spectre. I'm just going to clear everything else off of here. You could start as a fresh character too, but at least with this one you get some random gems and some links. So now we have a Desecrate, and now we have a Raise Spectre. And what you also want to do is go ahead and reset your passives unless you started on the blank one. And we'll just come right out of here, and we'll go up in case we want 2 Spectres. We'll go up and then we'll grab this extra Spectre here so that you can actually save 2 Spectres. So if you have a They of Toll and a Syndicate Operative Spectre, you can go ahead and you can do that. Now, how do you lock your zone with the correct Spectres? Well, you're going to have to log on to your Spectre character, and what you're going to do is you're going to open a map. Any map at all will work. So we'll just go ahead, take a tier 2 map here. And now when we open this map here, once we have the SO Spectres, this hideout is locked, and our Syndicate Operatives are locked onto the corpse table of our hideout now, as long as that map stays open. So when we hop over to this bank, when we Desecrate on the ground, the Syndicate Operatives will be on the ground as well, right? It'll be one of the only things on the ground, other than the Desecrated Bone Stalker, but that's just the default one. So now we just go ahead and hold Control A, and then I like to have my Spectres on a Control key. So Control A lets you select the corpses. So we've Desecrated, and now we raise our Syndicate Operatives, and then I like to just do 2. If you have a They of Toll or some other Spectre, right, you can just keep 2 of them on your bank. And what you'll do when you want to get your Spectres from your bank is you're just going to go ahead and do this in reverse, right? You're going to open this map device here, have a map here, you'll come onto your bank, just enter your hideout, and then when you swap back over to whatever your Necromancer has, when you go to your hideout, you'll be able to grab the Spectres from the ground, because your zone will have the Syndicate Operatives in the corpse table since you've opened the map and since the Syndicate Operatives are locked. So that is how you make a Spectre bank. If you grab the Spectres from me or anybody in the guild, this should be the very first thing you do, especially if your Spectre gem isn't leveled up all the way, especially if you're just starting to build out, because if your Spectres die, and they might while you're leveling up and whatnot, you don't want to have to ask again, right? It's much easier to have a Spectre bank. If you want to play this build for a while, just go ahead and make one, right? It took me about 3 minutes to do that, and I did it pretty slow as well. it definitely saves you a lot of time and a lot of headache. One last thing to make sure you pay attention to in the path of building is the fact that in the expensive version of the build, we'll actually put our Spectre in our helmet. That is because we can create such an amazing helmet that supports the gems we put in it, that it practically becomes a 7-link or more support setup. We'll have a helmet that gives +3 minion gem levels, +3 base critical strike chance to spells. Because Raise Spectre is a spell, I understand the Spectre's using an attack, but we want the base critical strike chance to spells, not attack. Since the Raise Spectre is a spell, we need to give the crit strike to the spell itself. We will also have on our helmet, socketed gems are supported by level 16 to 20 minion damage and 16 to 20 hypothermia. If you want to learn how to craft this amazing helmet and a slightly expensive shield on this build, head on over to GHAZZYTV'S channel, which I'll link down in the description, as he has some amazing crafting videos for minion builds, and it is very, very helpful to follow along with his examples as he creates the gear alongside you. Let's talk about some of the links that we'll be using in this build so you can get all of your gems prepared. Our main damage for our SO Spectres are going to be the links Raise Spectre, Greater Volley, Damage on Full Life, Vicious Projectiles, Elemental Damage with Attacks, and of course, Minion Damage, which we will all put in a +1 to level of Socketed Gems tabula. In our helmet, we are going to put Raise Zombie, Elemental Army, Meat Shield, and Animate Guardian. We will use Elemental Army to give extra resistance to our zombie and AG, as well as some extra maximum resistance, and applying a small cold exposure if our Frost Bomb doesn't apply the big one. We will use Meat Shield to make them more defensive, keeping our zombies and AG near us, and giving them some chance to taunt, so that our zombies and AG can kind of be a tank for us, staying around us and eating up all of the monster hits. Meat Shield also makes it so our zombies and AG take 20 less damage, which is very nice because we will be putting a few exalts into our AG setup, which we will talk about later on in the video. In our 4 green triad gloves, we will use 4 green gems. Dash, linked to Second Wind as our movement ability, the level 1 aura Precision, making sure to keep this at level 1 for now so that you have enough mana to cast your other abilities, as well as a Vol Haste, but we will not use the Haste aura, we will just use the Vol version of Haste. You will get kills, and then it will be a temporary buff that you can activate for a little bit of extra attack speed, move speed, and cast speed. Pretty much just think of it as a cooldown like you would in any other game, like World of Warcraft, for example. You ramp it up, and then you're able to use your cooldown whenever you want to. I normally save this for legions and for bosses. In our shield, we will use Summon Carrion Golem linked to Feeding Frenzy to grant our Spectres the Feeding Frenzy buff, which gives them 10% more damage as well as 10 attack and cast speed. The Carrion Golem is pretty nice as well, as it gives them a little bit of flat physical damage. We will also put in our shield the spell Convocation, which recalls all minions that are following us to our exact location and grants them life regeneration for 2 seconds. This is very nice to constantly reposition our Spectres to be nearby us, as well as our zombies and Animate Guardian. So we will put this on our left mouse button so that it is always activating on cooldown, always keeping our Spectres, zombies, and other minions directly next to us. In our boots, we will have two link setups. The first 2 link in our boots is going to be Generosity to Hatred. Hatred being an aura that allows us and nearby allies to gain 26 fizz as extra cold as well as more cold damage, but we will link it to Generosity, which gives it increased aura effect, making it more powerful but not affecting us. Since we are a minion build, this is ideal, as we do not deal the damage, our Spectres do. So we want to make our Spectres deal as much as possible. The second to link in our boots is going to be Summon Skitterbots, which summons these little contraptions that run around and have a shocking aura as well as a chilling aura. Now, since these Skitterbots have a chilling aura, we can link to the Skitterbots Bone Chill support. The Bone Chill support makes it so that enemies chilled by supported skills take increased cold damage based on the chill effect. This is very, very nice because Skitterbots is already applying a shock aura, which makes enemies take increased damage. Now, it's almost like a double shock aura because it will be shocking and then it will chill linked to the Bone Chill support, making them take increased cold damage as well. This is very, very good. We will be using a trigger wand, which you can PM me in game to get this craft on one of your wands. You just need to make sure that you have a suffix open so that I can craft the suffix trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill. In our wand, we will be triggering Frost Bomb, which is a little crystal orb placed on the ground that after a small duration will explode and give reduced life regeneration and apply minus 25 cold resistance through cold exposure. The second thing we will link is Desecrate, and it is important that you link the Desecrate before the Bone Offering so that the Desecrate goes off, creating corpses on the ground, followed by the Bone Offering, which consumes those corpses and grants all of our minions, and since we're a necromancer ourselves as well, some extra chance to block attack as well as blocking spell damage on top of life recovery when we block as well. This is such an amazing support and gives us so much free block. For this build, we need as many sockets as possible, so it's important we use Unset Rings. In our first Unset Ring, we will put the spell Storm Brand. This will create a magical brand that attaches to a nearby enemy and activates, dealing lightning damage to enemies nearby them. You can lay 3 of these down at a time. So this is a great way to constantly hit an enemy with lightning damage and be able to do it very, very frequently for only 1 link. In our second Unset Ring, we will put the cursed Assassin's Mark. We will use this only on bosses like map bosses, conquerors, or any other big boss in the game. Because it is a mark, you need to hover directly over the monster and press your Assassin's Mark button so that you may curse them with Assassin's Mark. Assassin's Mark is super powerful because it gives hits against cursed enemies, base critical strike chance, and critical strike multiplier, as well as a chance to grant a power charge when hit, which is very, very, very good. I'd like to talk about a very important thing very quickly. When you buy your Spectre chest, make sure you get a chest that is already 6 linked and has 3 white sockets, as well as the +1 to maximum number of Spectres. These are actually very, very cheap right now, and I recommend nabbing an Astral Plate base to give a little bit more armor as well as some extra elemental resistance. These, at the current time of the video, are only about 1 to 1.5 exalts and are a huge boost in damage, since you could obtain a 5th Spectre, giving you 25% more damage. For our bandits, we will kill all the bandits and get 2 skill points. And for the Pantheons, we'll choose Brine King to stop stun locks as well as stunning hits when we block, and Aberoth to stop burning ground from hurting us. But feel free to use any Pantheon that you like the most, as it is not that important, as we will be very tanky and everything around us will be constantly chilled and dying. Let's get into the path of building for this build. It's very, very important that you match up the trees to the gear sets. I have a cheap gear set and a cheap mapping tree, a moderate gear set and a moderate mapping tree, as well as an expensive double large cluster, quadruple medium cluster, triple small cluster tree that you need to line up with the expensive gear set. Please make sure you do this, or you might be missing some components of the build. Also, make sure you are following the right skill gems, as I do have a leveling section, a cheap and moderate mapping section, as well as the expensive section for our skills when you get your sick, wild helmet. All right, let's talk about the path of building. And first and foremost, let's talk about the tree. Let's go through the leveling tree pretty quick. It's going to be very, very easy. We're just going to come right out of the witch starting area, grabbing the intelligence, grabbing the minion damage and minion duration, as well as this SRS kind of chance to refresh duration when they hit a unique enemy. This is very nice, but it's nice to just have the minion damage right away. Then we'll come up, grab minion instability and the extra Spectre, Zombie, and Skeleton Death Attunement with some extra damage and a little bit of Life Leech. That is 1 through 12. 12 to 35. At 35, doing your normal lab, remember. We are going to grab Life, the extra Raise Skeletons and Zombies, and some more Life and Res. We'll come over here. This is actually pretty important. It gives elemental res and some regeneration for our minions as well as ourselves. And then some more life right here as well. 35 to 55, doing your cruel lab. At 55, very important. Come on over to this area to give even more life, fizz damage reduction, and resistance, as well as causing your minions to not take extra damage while bleeding when they're moving around, which they will a lot. We'll also come down here, getting even more minion damage, attack speed, and a chance to deal double damage, as well as even more damage and regeneration, keeping our zombies alive and well, as it is annoying to have to resummon them, so we try to focus in on that. This is also a very nice node if you're using Clarity. Even if you're not, still very good, gives life and mana regeneration. Remember to do your Cruel Lab. And now, 55 to 70, before Kitava, to do your Merc Lab. Remember to do that. We're going to come over here and give the Onslaught on kill to our minions, as well as some extra damage. We'll pick up Necromantic Aegis as soon as you can equip a Victorios. You should grab this. We'll come over, get some life. More life by the Scion Life. Come over here with some life as well. And we'll pick up Avatar of Fire for now and EE. This is nice. And it's kind of like a little baby proof on the build, just to make sure that you are only dealing non-fire damage, so that when you hit with your Storm Brand, you are only dealing fire. That means you're giving -50 cold at all times. Very, very important to have that for when you do the Syndicate Operative Spectres. For the cheap mapping tree, we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab some dexterity. You will need a lot of dex for this build. So we'll grab the strength and dex here, the 30 dex node here, and the 30 dex node here. If you have dex on your gear, feel free to refund these points. If anything, you can have a refund point waiting, and if you just hover over it and then you click it, you don't have to refund it right away. It'll tell you if you need more dex. So if it doesn't, you get to just remove that from your tree, which is pretty handy. But now for the level 70 tree, we're going to come and we're going to get Glancing Blows. Now that we will be using Bone Offering and eventually getting Arumis, we'll get a little bit more life here, and we'll get the reduced mana reservation here to make sure that we have enough mana to use our Precision, Skitter Bots, and Hatred Aura. Should be very, very nice. It's a pretty simple tree, and this is for a level 85 character. So if you do need to use this tree for a little bit longer, feel free to just ground the life down here in the Scion Life Wheel. Also, we are going to start using maximum life and minion damage if you used a minion skill recently, Jewels. These are very nice, and they're pretty cheap as well. So socket those anytime you get one. Also, we'll get some spell block here. Now that we're glancing blows, this gives us a lot of spell block, right? 16% of our spell block on the build comes from these 2 points, which is a great deal. Now, for the moderate to red map kind of farmer, we are going to fill out the Scion Life Wheel. Now, this is for a level 93. If you're not level 93, then just remove these points here for a level 88 character, as it's more efficient to grab this 6%er and this 5% life, 8% mana, and then the entire Scion Life Wheel than it is to come down here and grab this stuff. I just put this life here just so if you hit 93, you got some stuff to work towards. But now we will pick up Unending Hunger, which is surprisingly cheap this league. This is a very, very nice jewel, giving our Spectres a 50% chance to gain Soul Eater. Soul Eater, giving them more attack speed and cast speed. It's very, very good, very valuable. And the intelligence does not need to be allocated. It just needs to be within the radius, right? So there is enough intelligence within the radius. We don't need to allocate it. It's just got to be in the circle, right? 10, 20, 30, 40 int. Within the circle. Doesn't need to be allocated, by the way. All right. Another big thing about the moderate red map is you see that we're not going up to the Death Attunement. We will actually be anointing Death Attunement on our amulet. This is slightly expensive, but silver oils are super cheap this league. So it should only be about 15, 16, maybe 17 chaos to get this anointment. And it's very nice. It saves us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So that saves us 5 points. Definitely worth the investment, as we can get another 25% life for that cost on the tree. We will also be using a Thread of Hope with a medium ring. This is very nice, as it saves us so many points traveling around this tiny witch area. We can get 1 point for 10 life and 5 all res. What a great value. We'll also save 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. Instead of 6 points, we just spend 1. That's amazing. And we get 10 move speed, 20 damage, 5 attack and cast speed, and we give our minions onslaught. This is super, super nice. This medium ring, I love it. It's so busted. We can also get rid of these points here if you wanted, but it's life. Let's just get some life. It should be fine. Now, for this tree as well, we fill out all of the life that we can, as we might as well. There's not much other minion stuff that we should be getting on the tree until we move on to the cluster, the expensive cluster setup, where we will sacrifice a little bit of life. And once we move over to the expensive gear set, or if you are comfortable enough with the little mana that you will have unreserved, you can drop this. We'll drop the life down here, and we will also drop some life in the Scion Life Wheel. This is for a level 94 character. If you need to take a few points off, the easiest ones to remove from the tree are going to be a little life node here, a little bit of life over here, and the chaos resistance if you want, as well as the dexterity and strength here. If you can pick that up on your gear, it's very, very nice to do so, as it saves us 1, 2, 3, 4 points, allowing you to do this double cluster quadruple medium tree at level 90 instead of 94. Now, you don't need to be level 94 for this. You can drop and not use the small clusters for now, but I very much recommend to have these. They're so nice and they make it so smooth. So let's talk about a little bit of the changes here, as well as this cluster I forgot to talk about last time. Anatomical knowledge, it just gives you extra life. It's very nice. We actually get almost 200 life from this, right? 5% of our life. That's pretty good for 1 jewel socket. Not too shabby. Just converting some int into life, or it's actually just adding maximum life. We don't even lose any intelligence. That is very nice. So for the clusters, this is kind of important to save some points. We will be using Rotten Claws, Renewal, and Vicious Bites. Now, we use Renewal to give regeneration and 6% double damage. Very, very nice, right? 6% chance to deal double damage is practically just 6% more damage. Also, we will use Vicious Bites to give 30 crit strike chance and 15 multiplier. Now, we don't get their Rotten Claws because our minions are converting 100 fizz to cold, and you cannot impale with cold damage. You can only impale with physical damage. So why do we get this? Well, if you don't have the Rotten Claws, then these two are in a pretty bad position, and you have to spend many more points to get them. But if you do get the Rotten Claws here, it's 1 little minion damage, 2 big ones, and then your 2 clusters. Oh my god, dude, it's so value. It's so value. It's so worth it. I mean, if you gotta not get this, or if you have to sacrifice one of these, that's totally fine. But eventually work your way to this. It's so worth it, I promise. Also, you should get for the medium clusters the Precise Commander, again, giving critical strike chance and multiplier, as well as Vengeful Commander, giving 20% hatred effect, which is huge because hatred gives extra fizz as cold. Hatred is just so busted. It's such a great aura for the for any physical build to get a little bit of their physical damage as extra cold, as well as giving more cold damage. It's very, very good. So we get these on all of them. Now, in one of these little spots, we're going to use Fortress Covenant. This is actually so busted. This normally is supposed to have a radius. This jewel is really, really good, and it's supposed to have a downside, right? If you see this, look, it's 1 jewel, and it gives 45 minion damage, 11 attack and spell block for our minions. But this last line, notable passive skills in radius are transformed to instead grant minions take 20% increased damage. That would be awful, right? If we put that here, then anytime we pick up a big node like Grave Pact or any of the big ones, right? No matter where we put this, there's going to be like a node like this here. If we put Fortress Covenant here, and it would make our minions take increased damage. That's so bad. They're going to die very, very fast if we have even one of those nodes in the radius. But, dude, when you put this in a medium cluster, it gets no circle. It's just straight damage block. It's so good. So we definitely want to use one of our medium cluster sockets for this jewel. It's actually busted. I don't know if this is how it's supposed to be. It doesn't apply to these. It just doesn't have its radius in the cluster. It's so, so good. But for the other ones, we are going to grab Surging Vitality. I wasn't using this, and the build felt bad. I started using this, and the build felt good. You gotta get these, and they're pretty cheap, man. They're a small cluster. I think I got them for like 5 or 10 chaos. This small cluster, 1 point for maximum life, another for 4 max life, and then another point for 8. So each point is practically 6% life, which is already way more value than the Scion life wheel. But we also get 0.5 life regen, and we get 10 life regen over 1 second every 4 seconds. So that feels really good when that kicks in. It's like a super boost of life regeneration. And we are going to get a few of these. We're going to get 2 of these, which is very nice. So every 4 seconds, we regenerate 20% of our life over 1 second. And it's just nice life value. Also, you want to get a small cluster, just one of these, that gives rote reinforcement on a chance to block spell damage base, as this will allow us to block our spell damage block. With this one little node here, right, will be, otherwise it would be 73, 74% chance to block spell damage. So we just grab one of these, and we get this, which gives us 20 flat, pretty nice, but it gives us 20% chance to gain an endurance charge when we block. We're blocking 75% of the time. So this is how we generate our endurance charges, which gives us 12% physical damage reduction, as well as a little bit of resistance, which we don't really need, as you should be capped anyway. But that 12 phys damage reduction, it's huge. So, so good. What a value on that small cluster jewel. So this is the expensive jewel tree. We still get pretty decent amount of life. We still get glancing blows. We still have unending hunger. It's pretty good. Next, let's talk about quickly the leveling skills that we'll use. We're going to start with Stormblast Mine with Swift Assembly and Added Lighting until your skeletons start to feel good. feel free to use Stormblast Mine and Orb of Storms. Just throw the Orb of Storms down and then use your Stormblast Mines inside of them until you unlock Skeletons at level 10. Then we will use Summon Skeletons and Infernal Legion to make our skeletons slowly die but have a fire damage overtime aura, in conjunction with the Minion Instability node, in which when minions get to low life, they explode. This is a very, very good combo, and it's pretty fast to level 2, as the skeletons will be summoned on your cursor. They'll deal a big fire damage aura, and then they'll be attacking in an area with their melee attack kind of splashing around them. If you want, you can grab Vitality if you need some life regen. It does feel pretty good to use that pretty early. And it'll keep your zombies alive, but it'll also sort of keep your skeletons alive too. So just go with whatever feels best there. At level 8, your zombies might die a little bit, but it is pretty good to use them. We do unlock zombies, and then you want to link to them Minion damage and melee splash. If you got a 4-link, eventually get some added fire damage on there as well. At level 8, we'll get Summon Raging Spirits, which will also link to Infernal Legion, Minion damage, and melee fizz, making our Summon Raging Spirits slowly die and then exploding. But we will use SRS on single target only until we unlock Unleash. For now, use Frostblink, but at level 10, use Flame Dash and Smoke Mine, or just Flame Dash. That's totally fine. If you do use Smoke Mine, put Detonate Mine on left mouse button. It makes it very, very easy. Your auras are going to be Clarity, Summon Skitterbots, and Hatred. At level 38, you can get a Hex Touch setup if you'd like to apply Elemental Equilibrium, as well as the Curse Elemental Weakness. Now, at level 38 plus, your clear and your single target is going to be Summon Raging Spirits, Unleash, which lets you gain casts over time and lets you unleash those casts all at once, which is very nice because we can be running and we use it and then we get 4 SRSs out at once. All of them will have Infernal Legion, Melee Splash, and if you have a 5 and 6 link, you want to use Melee Fizz and Feeding Frenzy. And you just want to throw your Flesh Offering anywhere you can and use it as often as you can, especially once you grab the Cruel Lab that lets your offerings affect yourself. Flesh Offering gives attack speed, cast speed, move speed. That's pretty nice for us, making us faster and making our minions faster. Now, once you can use Spectres, and I recommend using Spectres around Act 6, Act 7, you can hit me up, right? PM at TryPolarBear for the good Spectres. Otherwise, if you can't PM me, if you can't get them from the guild or Global 6666, go ahead and use the slave drivers from Act 5 in the pen, right? That very, very first area that you enter. Once you climb that mountain in Act 4, that's the place that you can get these slave drivers from. But if you do PM me, you gotta have your Desecrate and your Raise Syndicate Operative Spectres. And this is the setup. Once you hit maps, you want to have this Spectre setup here, and you want to swap out Minion damage for the Predator support on huge bosses like Cyrus. This Predator support is very, very good because it gives 25 more damage as well as 25 more damage to the prey. And this marks the enemy that you use it on. So you get a skill on your hotbar that'll apply a specific mark to an enemy. And your minions will highly prioritize that to be their prey. That's why it is called Predator. So all of the linked minions will super hard focus on that. They'll chase them around, and it's super, super handy on Cyrus because you'll see all of your minions or all of your Spectres kind of just rush towards Cyrus right away. They'll be constantly attacking him, even as he teleports around. It's very, very handy for that fight. But otherwise, for just in general mapping, it is much better to use simply the Minion Damage Support Gem, as it does give a huge more damage multiplier more often than not, right? 49 more damage versus 25 and 25, right? Minion damage while mapping's better, but Predator on Cyrus, very important. Now, in our helmet, we talked about this. We'll have our zombies, LE Army, Meat Shield, AG. Triad, we've got the dash and second wind setup. We use Precision Aura for some extra crit strike chance and to cap our hit chance, giving accuracy rating to our Spectres. We'll use Summoned Carrion Golem and Feeding Frenzy to give the Feeding Frenzy buff. That gives some more damage. You can see it in the configuration. Feeding Frenzy gives 10 more minion damage, increased move speed, and attack and cast speed. Very, very good. Convocation, put it on your left mouse button. You don't even have to know how it works, all right? It really just summons all your minions to you every time you use it. Gives them some life regen. Throw it on LMB. It'll be dope. Generosity and Hatred, Skitterbots, Bone Chill, and then our Trigger Wand. You want to just make sure, Frost Bomb, it doesn't matter, but you need the Desecrate to be above the Bone Offering as it triggers in order. So Desecrate first, then Bone Offering. Then we have Stormbrand for EE and Assassin's Mark to give base crit strike chance and critical strike multiplier to whomever we mark, which should be bosses only. Now for the expensive setup. In our helmet, for the expensive Spectre setup, right? Make sure that you are in the expensive gear set and you have the expensive helmet if you're going to do this, or it's going to feel really bad. And I'm going to say, why didn't you read the POB? Race Spectre, level 21, you got to have it. It's not that expensive. You don't need the quality if you can't afford the quality. Just get the level 21 Spectre gem. But you want to use Awaken Elemental Damage with attacks, Awakened Vicious Projectiles, and Awakened GMP. If you can't afford Awakened GMP, then just use Greater Volley. You just lose one projectile, but it's totally fine. Use that until you can't afford it. Now, since we have our Spectres in our helmet, we're going to put our zombies and AG in our body armor. We'll still have LE Army and Meat Shield, but now we are also giving them 49 more life, which helps them not die, as well as putting our Convocation in there. Now, since we put our Convocation in our body armor, we got some extra spots to free up. So we'll put Carrion, Feeding Frenzy, and Assassin's Mark in our shield. We got one extra jewel socket, so now we get to use a Vitality, which is pretty cool. A level 21 gives us a lot of life regeneration. This is very nice and kind of helps us get rid of some of those ticking damage, right? There's been a lot of dot damage in the game, right? Little pools that deal damage. Vitality kind of helps offset that alongside our surging Vitality. Small cluster jewels. Our gloves, we're going to have precision at level 20. Now, because we do some different stuff with the gear, we're able to have a Vitality and precision at level 20. It's very, very nice. Keep in mind to only use the Vol portion of Vol Haste. Trigger Wand's exactly the same. Unset Ring's the same. And the boots are the same as well. So, now for the gear sets. Cheap, 0 to 100. Really, it's kind of like 100, but you can start this with absolutely nothing. If you need a tabula, hit me up in game. We have some tabulas in our guild stash. Super, super easy. You just take them out. There's some gold rims and stuff in there too. Just put them back when you're done, right? As soon as you can afford your own, throw it back in there so all of the new people can just get boosted through the leveling with their tabula and gold rim. And, you know, it's kind of like paying it forward when you put it back, right? You're borrowing it and then you return it, all right? You don't go to your grandma's house where she has all of the books in her little public library thing right by the road. You're not going to take all of those books and try to, like, pawn them, right? Nobody does that, okay? Just put the tabulas back. All right, anyway, let's talk about cheap gear. Okay, super cheap. Just get +1 to all spells or +1 to minions. Literally just that, and then have a suffix open, and I can craft the trigger a socketed spell when you use a skill on there, so you don't have to press Frost Bomb, Desecrate, Bone Offering all of the time, right? Why would you want to press 3 buttons when you could press 0 with this trigger wand? Our weapon, or our weapon 2, our shield, is going to be Victorio's Charity. It doesn't matter what all this gives, because our minions are getting it anyway, right? The important part is the power and frenzy charge generation. Very good. Very sick. This makes our minions deal a lot more damage, and they crit a lot more too. It's pretty good. The helmet, life and res. The body armor, very important. If you don't have 21 Spectre, you gotta get a +1 level of all socketed gems, right? We need our Spectre gem to hit level 25. You get level 20 by having a leveled up Spectre gem that you can buy for like 3 chaos, right? As soon as you can, just buy it's literally like 3C. Just buy a level 20 Ray Spectre, right? Then you get +2 from your Ascendancy, that's 22. +1 from this, that's 23. +1 from your boots, that is 24. For our gloves, it's super, super important. You get 4 green. They gotta be 4 green triad grip, because for every green socket, they get 25 fizz converted to cold, so we deal exclusively cold damage from our Spectre's attack. It's very, very nice, right? We are gonna convert 100 fizz to cold. You gotta have these. You cannot do this without these, right? You need to have all of the unique items from here, except the tabula if you upgrade to the body armor right away from the moderate section. The boots, they gotta be these 20C boots that give +1 level to Spectres, get some move speed, get some life, or you could just use good old Bones of Allure, but these only give 20 life, they only have 15 move speed at a max, but they do give you +1 level to Spectres as well. But if you can, just try to get these 20C boots, pretty easy. Alright, Amulet, anoint death attunement on this as soon as you can, otherwise you gotta spend some points to get there. This is pretty good. It's got a lot of nice stuff. Chaos Res gives us strength and dex, increased effect of curses and auras, as well as, importantly, 10% of damage from hits is taken from our Spectre's life before our life. Pretty much just 10% damage reduction from hits. Really, really good. Unset Rings 1 and 2, literally just cap your res on these and try to get as much life as you can for whatever you can afford. And we'll use Darkness Enthroned. This belt's actually pretty good because it has 2 Abyss sockets, and the Abyssal Jewels in there get 75% increased effect. This actually gives us like, 12% of our damage. It's pretty good. We get some life and some minion damage jewels, and we'll fill out the rest of our jewel sockets as we can with these jewels as well. It's pretty good. They're pretty cheap. The moderate setup, still +1 spell or minions, right? It can be +1 to all spell skills or +1 to minions. Either way it works. Still using Victorios. Our helmet, we're going to try to get some more life now. Our body armor, literally just grab the 6 link that has 3 white that gives +1 max number of Spectres and craft like 70 whatever life on there, or just buy it like that. Totally fine. You gotta get the +1 max Spectre though. It's really, really good. But now that we swap to this chest piece and it's not giving us +1 Spectre levels, you have to get a level 21 Ray Spectre, right? Look at this. 21 +4. 2 from the Ascendancy, 1 from the Wand, 1 from the Boots. And that last one to hit level 25 has to come from the gem now, right? Otherwise, if you don't have a level 21 Ray Spectre when you go to the chest piece, you'll still only have 4 Spectres as a max, right? You gotta get that level 21 gem when you swap so that you can get an extra Spectre. Still 4 green, still these boots with the anointment, but now you gotta try to cap your res and get a little bit more life where you can, still using Darkness Enthroned. But we changed up the jewel sockets, right? We're using Unending Hunger, Anatomical Knowledge, and a Thread of Hope. It's pretty good. For the expensive goals that you can start to work towards now. Oh, quickly, let's talk about the flasks. We're going to use a Bubbling Divine Flask of Staunching. We use this because half of the amount is going to be applied instantly, right? So we get 720 life right away, and then we get another 720 life over 3 seconds. This is actually very nice for this build since we kind of stack a bunch of life very easy. This is a very, very good flask. Instead of just the instant, right? The instant flask gives like 900 whatever life. So we take instantly, but then it has no life over 3 seconds. Otherwise, you have to spam that instant life flask a lot. But with this one, you can kind of use it once, and then you get a lot more total life off of it. It's pretty good. You need this. You absolutely need this. If you only have like 1 flask on your character, it needs to be this flask. All right. It's a chemist's. Now, the chemist is the reduced charges used. This is important so we can use it twice, right? If you don't have the reduced charges used, you won't be able to use your basalt flask 2 times because it'll consume 40 out of 60 charges instead of 30 out of 60. Basalt giving 15 fizz damage reduction, which is very, very handy. And most important is the immune to curses, which gets rid of temp chains and enfeeble, ally weakness, vulnerability, anything from the map, anything from the monster. Removing and being immune to curses is hands down the most important part and is going to stop you from dying the most. You gotta get this. If you can only get the warding, that's fine. But if you roll the reduced charges, go to your bestiary. You can craft the warding on there for free. It's very nice. Now we'll grab a roomies as well. Try to get this as high roll as you can. If you can't get a high roll for cheap, yo, screw it, dude. It's just a couple block, right? If you gotta save some money, man. You can upgrade your flask later. Don't worry about it. Roomies is super sick though, right? We go from 50 attack block and 70 spell block. Boom. We just go right up to the max block, and we get some armor too, which is pretty handy. We're gonna use a quartz flask with freeze immunity, giving us phasing so we can move through stuff, and 10 attack and spell dodge. Very cool. And freeze immune. Very nice. And then for our Quicksilver, we're going to use an Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, giving a ton of move speed, right? 81 move speed. That's very good. Makes us a super speedy boy. All right, expensive goals. You gotta try to get a +2 wand. This is very nice. You don't need this. It's just a lot of damage. If you can grab a +1 and like a minion damage or anything else, that's totally fine. Just try to upgrade your wand. It'll be pretty good and helpful. Now for the expensive helmet, you're going to go and you're going to want to watch GHAZZYTV'S video on how to craft this. He does a beautiful job. It's very, very nice. You don't need this enchant, but if you can get a bone helmet with the enchant, it's nice to craft it on there. But go ahead, check that video out. This helmet's actually nuts, and really its cost is about 10 to 15x, which isn't too bad, right? What is that, like 5 hours of blight map farming? If you go watch my blight map farm video, my blight guide, that's not too bad, man, to get your absolutely like nutty helmet. That is pretty good. Body armor, if you can harvest craft on this, if you trust TFT or if you have them yourself, yo, this is pretty good, man. +1 Spectre, you get some life, some res, chaos res, and then the Gravicious Unveiled craft, gain 10 max life as extra max. Yes, that's pretty nice, man. Triad, exactly the same. Don't change these, man. Don't even touch them. Don't even think about it. Boots. We're going to have +1 level of all race Spectre gems, and then try to get some life, res, maybe a little bit more of move speed on there. But now our amulet, dude. Look at this thing. It's pretty cool. Hatred reserves no mana, that last line. That lets us use 20 vitality, 20 precision. This is why we can use that and drop this reduced mana reserve wheel here, right? This amulet, super good. It gives us level 20 precision and vitality. I love it. All right, Unset Ring. Try to get some dex on here so you can save 1 point on the tree. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it'll come in handy. Same here, dude. Just try to get some life, some res, whatever you need, and try to get this thick belt. Oh, man, this is a thick belt. Try to get some life and some percent life, right? I'm getting 500 life from this belt, dude. I hit 5k life. That's pretty cool. And in that belt, put a taunt jewel, right? You want to get one of these somewhere so your Syndicate Operatives can taunt for you. You might as well, man. They're throwing a bunch of knives everywhere. They have a 5% chance to taunt with those knives. They're throwing so many everywhere, man. They're going to taunt everything. It's pretty sick. And now for our flasks, same life flask, same basalt flask with the curse immunity, but now we use a bottle of faith to make our enemies take increased damage, right? If we go to the configuration, say they're on consecrated ground, right? The consecrated ground alone gives hits against enemies 100% increased crit strike chance. And then when we use our bottle of faith, they don't get the base crit strike chance, but enemies will be taking 10% increased damage, which is really good. And it's a source of the consecrated ground. So this flask makes enemies take 10% increased damage and gives our Spectres 100% increased critical strike chance. That's really, really good. And, yo, Desecrated Ground gives a lot of life regen too. We will also use roomies still. Totally fine. Exactly the same. But now, the last gear set is going to be the expensive AF. These are going to be omega expensive upgrades. The most important one is getting this sick helmet. Now, we're just going to get sick everything. The wand is going to be fractured at Sawaddle mod so that we can use fossils to get +1 all spell and +1 minion skills. I recommend just buying this already fractured. It's so much easier than trying to like hit the 1 in 3 to fracture a prefix, or the 1 in 5 to, you know, fracture a random thing, and then you have to buy the right wands that already have all these mods on them and all this. I found it way easier to just buy one of these. Now, to buy it fractured was about, I think, 11, 12x, something like that. It's very expensive, but I mean, hey man, if you're trying to juice your build up, this is where you can juice it a lot, right? 64 minion damage, 5% chance to deal double damage. You fracture that. What's fracturing? It locks it in there. That makes it so if you chaos spam, if you scour, if you use fossils, this mod stays exactly the same. Try to get your minions deal increased damage to be perfect, which would be 66. I just settled with the 64, which is kind of dumb, but hey, whatever, man. But how are you going to get that +1/+1 now? Well, we are going to use Craft of Exile, and we're going to select the +1 minion skills and the +1 level of all spell skill gems. We're going to have those be 2 different prefixes we're trying to hit, and we're going to compute the best selection of fossils, right? Why use our brains when computer use brain for us? So it's going to combine a bunch of things. It's calculating the perfect amount of fossils. Now, dude, it's going to be pretty expensive. When I did mine, I had to buy that base for 12, and then it was like 900 chaos and fossils. Looks like it's about 800 now. So it'll take about 12 tries with this combination to hit +1 spells and +1 level of all minion gems. Right? You have to use corroded, jagged, metallic, shuddering, and these huge resonators, which are like 50 chaos or more each. Very expensive, but this is the juicer section. That way you can hit +1 level of spells and minions. Hopefully you get some stuff you can remove and target remove with harvest crafting, so you can at least craft trigger a socketed spell on the suffix, or you can multi-mod it to get the trigger and the attack and cast speed. That's very nice. This shield is nuts. GHAZZY's got another video. The dude's ballin'. He's got another video to show you very easily how to craft this shield. It's very good. +2 minimum frenzy power. Gain 8 cold is extra chaos. 1% damage per 1 block. 50 cold damage and a chance to deal double damage. This shield is wild. This shield is wild. Right? If we put this shield on, we have 600 here. I don't have the right gems set up, but just to show, Victorio's is like 500,000. This shield goes up like 170,000, right? That's a lot, right? This is each knife on 5 specters times however many knives are actually hitting. It's really good. We're going to use the same exact helmet. If you want to be a super duper juicer, you can use the essence to get 30% elemental damage to socketed gems. That's going to make this helmet way harder to craft, though. I recommend just watching the video and getting it good enough until you have like literally like 100 exalts to blow, trying to get the essence that makes socketed gems deal 30 more LE damage on top of all of these other things. That would be a huge crafting project, but hey, if you get there, you get there. Body armor, you're just going to juice this body armor up with a bunch of harvest crafts, and you're going to use a Hunter Exalted Orb or buy one of these already that it has increased effective offering, just giving you some more block to hit the block cap easier, so you can kind of sack some block on the tree or wherever else you need to. You're a juicer player, you can figure it out. Use your path to building, it'll be fine. And then you harvest craft a bunch of stuff like life and whatnot. Still try glebs. Don't even think about changing them. Boots, you're going to elevate the level of Race Spectre Gem to give it +2. And you're going to harvest craft life, res, chaos, res, move speed. And you're going to craft cannot be frozen, so that we can give up one of our flasks so that we don't need freeze immunity. Amulet is still Ul's Uprising. This is just so good. Our Unset Rings, trying to get them as nutty as you can. Get a bunch of life. If you can get a bunch of life on this one with a bunch of decks, do it. Just get a bunch of life, man. And then same here, dude. Your belt, get a bunch of life, get a bunch of res. Keep that taunt jewel in there. Should be pretty good. This is where it gets super expensive, but it's also where it gets super good and fun to play. I don't like buying 20x items for my build because, dude, that's a lot of money, right? It's like, oh my god, 20 exalts for one piece of gear. I could make like a whole other build, but man, is it worth it? You can get, dude, it feels so good, right? I promise, man, I promise. If you start with the helmet, it's going to be like, dude, that helmet feels so good. Dude, the shield, the wand is going to feel exactly the same. They're huge, man. They're huge. Anyways, that's all for the POB. The very last thing we need to talk about is the Animate Guardian setup. How are we going to gear up our AG? Well, we already talked about the Kingmaker axe, but we've got something new, okay? Instead of the garb of the ephemeral, instead of this chest piece, we're going to give up the nearby enemies cannot deal crit strikes, and we're going to give up our action speed not being able to be modified below base value. That pretty much just means we can't be super slowed. Right, we're going to give that up to make our AG near invincible. I like it. It's pretty good. It's pretty fun. And then later on, you can do some fancy stuff and not feel so bad, right? Kingmaker, not too expensive. But boy, if you get some cool gloves that have chaos resistance and you get like a curse corruption on the gloves, dude, that's really, really good. You can also do some other fancy stuff with the boots, like a corpse walker boot. Someone had pointed that out just to give more life regeneration and corpse spawning and whatnot. I prefer just to cap the chaos res and make sure the LA res is really good. But right, this lets you do some fancy stuff. Okay, Mask of the Stitched Demon. What is it? Why is it so good? All you need to know is that the more energy shield you give your Animate Guardian, the more life regen it gets, right? For every 500 max energy, this last line, it gets 1% life regenerated. Our Animate Guardian, when we go check it out in our expensive setup, is going to have 63,000 or more, no, 44,000 or more life. Well, hold on. With the expensive gear, it's going to be like 55,000. You could boost them a little bit higher, but it's about 55,000 life. So the AG's life regeneration is going to be 11,000 per second. Now, how does he get that much life regeneration? Well, the Mask of the Stitched Demon. For every 500 ES he gets 1% life regeneration. So, since Animate Guardians and Minions in general have so much life, we can gain 10% of that maximum life as extra max energy shield. So, you'll see that our AG has 55,000 life. So, 10% of his life is going to be converted or gained, I suppose, as extra energy shield, right? So he's at 6,400 ES. He gets 11,000 life per second. That makes him nearly invincible to almost all content in the game. But you gotta get a chest piece that has this, and you need to cap your chaos resistance out. Then you don't have to worry about losing your Kingmaker or any other cool stuff, right? This is about 2.2. You don't need this. He'll survive perfectly fine. It's just to kind of ensure it, right? If anything, just grab the Kingmaker and get some chaos resistance and a little bit of LE resistance as well. Just focus on the chaos and elemental res. If you put him in the meat shield LE armor setup, as you can see, he survived everything. It's really just like that feared cortex thing. Like, that was the only time I've ever seen his life start to waver like that. It was pretty spooky. If you got any questions, come on over to the notes section, or more importantly, come over to my live stream on Twitch, or come on to my YouTube channel. I'm also streaming on there as well. Go check it out. Anyways, if you made it this far and you haven't liked and subscribed, that's actually super uncool, bro. Like, yo, it helps so much. It actually helps so much. Really, truly, please do it, okay? Please. All right, more people get recommended this dope POB. More people get to play this dope build. It's really good. And I'm trying to give it out to the people, and I need your help, all right? Drop a like, drop a sub, get more sick builds, and let others get more sick builds as well. Anyway, catch you guys later. See you on the live streams.